Hey guys, my name is Carrie Hutto, and I'm here to discuss an article that I read about a few months ago. It was about motivating middle schoolers to read and just to be interested in school in general. The article was called Doing the Impossible, Creating Motivation in Middle Schoolers by Andrea Davis and Leslie Forbes. So the first point that she makes is you need to create a classroom culture that taps into motivation. She talks about a story about a boy named Luke, and Luke was just very unmotivated. He came from a very broken home life. He had behavioral issues, academic issues. He didn't want to learn. He just was a bump on a log, honestly, in school. And he was in 6th grade, and his sixth grade teacher, gave him the task of writing a letter to gave the whole class the task of writing a letter to 5th graders to persuade them to read a certain book for their summer reading. And so the teachers were pleasantly surprised to see that Luke had written more than 2 pages. He was very enthusiastic about this assignment. He had little to no grammatical errors. He even asked that he would have a response. The teachers were thinking, why is this so important to Luke? And the teachers realized this is important to Luke because it's social. It's real. He's writing to a real person. It's a social thing. And he also had a lot of freedom about this assignment. He could choose what book. He could choose how long this could be, the letter would be. He could choose what style of writing. He had a lot of freedom. So what we saw there is that he had freedom and that it was a social thing. So we see more and more with middle schoolers, especially adolescent age, that to create motivation, you want a more social environment. So say, for example, if you give a student the assignment to write about George Washington biography, they're not going to be very motivated because it's not very interesting to them. But if you give that student an assignment to write about, just analyze a relationship like a friendship, or analyze their relationship with their sibling, they're probably going to be more motivated to do that because it's a social thing and they want to talk about their personal life. So then we see students wanting to read and write more when it's a social thing. So another point that the author makes is we need to teach the students how to connect with each other. We need to teach them how to be social. If this is what it takes for them to get motivated to be social, then we need to teach them how to accurately be social. Teachers need to know how to set up their classroom for a positive social environment. So the author tells a story about how she sets up her classroom in a circle. And so her desks are in a circle, and her chair is a wooden chair, and it just sits on one side of the circle. So this encourages, students can look each other in the face instead of having to turn around and have class discussions. They all see each other. The teacher sees all the students' faces. Every student sees the teacher. This encourages more classroom discussions. This will create better motivation because instead of just giving a student an assignment, then you can make discussions and hear from your fellow peers. And also, the students are being taught mutual respect. So instead of saying to your peer, I like what you said here, you say, I noticed as a reader or a writer, you said this. This creates mutual respect, and also this boosts self-esteem, and it does motivate the student because they're like, well, I'm doing good at this, so maybe I should keep doing it. So, and it creates just a safe place for students because if they're being encouraged by their peers, they're constantly trying to impress their peers. If they're being encouraged by their peers, then they're more motivated to learn. Another way you can create a positive social environment in your classroom is the teacher can go around and say, well, what are you reading about? What are you writing about? Or what did you say on this answer, and why did you say that? This creates like a casual conversation with the teacher and the student. It's very low pressure. The student's not being graded, so they're not worried about what they're going to say. This creates a really positive relationship between the student and the teacher. The next point that the author makes is, well, this is a quote that she quoted, and I really liked it, so I wanted to include it in my video. It says, "What matters is not what we teach, it's what they learn." So I think a lot of times as teachers, we get caught up in how we're doing and how we are teaching, but it's not how we are doing, it's how the students are doing, ultimately. The author tells about how she went into a classroom one time and it was very vibrant. The blinds were open, so sunlight was pouring in, and students' artwork was displayed all over the walls, and also the desks were in a circular formation, so all the students could see each other and participate in discussion, and the teacher could participate in discussion. So the view is we had to just have this very vibrant, lively, happy classroom environment, and I will show you a visual of what the desks look like in relation to where the teacher is as well. So the story about this classroom environment is that they're reading a novel, and in the novel there's a grandmother, and she's just dancing around, having a good old time. She's in public, so she's she's embarrassing people around her. But the teacher responds with, well, you know what, she's just having fun and she's being herself. And so the students are like, okay, this is a different outlook. I didn't think about that. And so the teacher asks, well, who wants to get up and dance in the middle of the circle? And a few students raise their hand. So they get up and dance, and their classmates cheer them on. So some teachers might say that it's too much time and too much energy to create a social environment in your classroom, which is not the case. You can make very little changes to create a huge impact on students' motivation. So, for example, the author talks about how she has a pencil box in her classroom, and every time a student finds a stray pencil in the hallway or on the floor, or they just don't want that pencil anymore, they put it in the pencil box. And you're instructed to, if you lose your pencil, if you break your pencil, or if you don't have a pencil, you just go to the pencil box and you get a pencil from that pencil box. And so instead of ridiculing the student like, oh, well, you didn't come to class prepared, or you're just irresponsible. So instead of ridiculing the student, they just don't get as good of a pencil, and that's just how it is. And so this creates a social environment, because one, you're encouraging the student, you're not really putting the student down. Two, a student can feel like they have an impact, a small impact on the classroom, because they're donating pencils to the pencil box and they're cleaning up. So if they see a pencil on the floor and you didn't have the pencil box, it would stay on the floor. But since you have a pencil box, it's gonna go in it's gonna get taken care of, so you'll have less trash, so that's good. But all of these changes are very simple, but they are very profound. That can help your classroom, they can help your students, it can create a lot of motivation in your students. So as we see, especially in adolescence, social interactions are huge, because they're at a point in their life where they're trying to impress anyone and everyone, and social interactions are a really big deal for them. And so if they're social, and if they feel like they're being encouraged and in a safe place where their opinion matters and where they can talk about anything, then they're going to be motivated. I learned a lot from this article. It was a really great article. It was really well written. I learned a lot of things that I can use in my future classroom.